Alright, welcome to part 5 of how to play Unfair, and hopefully how to win. Alright, now we've been making some progress here. We are in the middle of round 1 because there's one Funfair card flipped over in the discard pile. We've just finished the event step by doing 3 different actions. We first each drew an event card, we then flipped over the city card, and then we each played as many event cards as we wanted. In the future, we'll see how that becomes a little bit more involved. Now, the starting player has moved the token, the location token, to the Park Step 1 ticket. We're now in the Park Step, which are these red tickets, and we're going to take our first park action. Of course, starting with the starting player, because the starting player always goes first. Now, I'm hoping you're starting to see a pattern here. Each time we reach one of these tickets, the starting player is the one who moves the location marker to the ticket, and the starting player is the first one to do the action, and then everybody else has a chance to do the same action. Then the starting player moves to a new ticket, and everybody has a chance to do the same action. So on and so forth. Now, of course, this one is a little bit different shade of green because the starting player flips over the card and nobody else flips over a card, just one card per round. But now that we're here on the first park action in the park step, the starting player is going to do something from the park action list. Now, I'm wondering if you remember this from a few episodes ago. We were mainly referring to it on the right side for ways to earn victory points at the end of the game. But also on the left, there's this handy round sequence list, which tells us what we can do. Now, you may notice that exact same list is duplicated on this side of each player's reference card. We're going to go ahead and look at this slightly larger version right here. Now, we've already done the events step. We already did that. Now we're in the park step. And each of these park steps this is all one park step, but each park step 1, park step 2, park step 3, park step 4, players can each take one action per ticket. And they have, of course, quite a few options on what to do. This is the core of the game. This is where most of the action happens. So, starting player 1 can choose to do one of 5 things. As we can see here, he can choose to either take, build, demolish, or loose change. Now, I said there's 5 things, and that's true. I'll explain that in a moment. Starting player 1 can either choose to build something from his hand, build something from the market, draw some cards, and discard some cards, or discard a card in order to draw more cards. Now, don't worry, we're going to explain this and walk through each of those possibilities, but there's the 5. 5 is the player can build something from his hand, build something from the market, draw some cards and then discard a card in order to draw more cards, or loose change. Alright, let's explain that. So starting player can only do one action right now because we're on the first ticket. He needs to decide which of those 5 things he's going to do. Now, starting player already has a good start to his little amusement park here. He has his main entrance gate, and he has a floorless roller coaster that he built for free during the event step. But the player doesn't have any cards in his hand to play, and there are no cards in the market to build either. So let's do that. Each player is going to get 5 cards, of course, starting with the starting player. He gets 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the other player also gets 5 cards. If there are more than 2 players, each other additional player would also receive 5 cards. Now the player has 5 cards in his hand, and he can take a peek at them. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Also, the marketplace is now going to be filled with some cards. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and finally 6. So now the market has 6 cards in it, and each player has 5 cards in their hand. So now the starting player can make an informed decision. He can either pay money to build something from his hand into his park, pay money to build something from the market into his park. He can either draw the top 2 cards from any of these decks, the park deck, the blueprint, or the event deck, and look at them, and then choose one to keep and one discard, or discard both of them, kind of like the pass, no pass thing. Or the player could do lose change. Lose change means you count the number of attractions in your park. In this case, he only has one attraction. That's just counting the number of cards. And you can receive 1 coin for that. Kind of like going to the attraction and picking up all the loose change that guests have dropped in the queue. Now, we're going to go ahead and talk about all the possibilities that this particular starting player has. And we're going to go through this entire, all these possibilities in some length. So, first of all, as I said before, the player has 5 possible actions that he can take, but he can only take 1. Starting player already has a good amount of money in front of him. He has 20 coins, and he hasn't spent anything yet, because this was built for free. So he's not going to take the loose change action, but if he did, he would go ahead and just take 1 coin, because he has 1 attraction, add that to his pile, and that would be his action. Then it would be player 2's chance to do something. Once player 2 has done his action, the starting player would move it to park step 2, and we would repeat. But starting player doesn't want to do that. Starting player has plenty of money. Starting player doesn't need to take the loose chain action. What else can starting player do? Well, starting player can look at the cards in his hand and decide whether he wants to pay the price that's printed with the little coin next to it in order to put this thing into his park. Now, here we have an upgrade. Now, upgrades are different than attractions. Attractions must be built first, and they have a nice forked ribbon in the upper top left corner to show that it's the starting card. You have to have an attraction before you can build anything to upgrade it. Upgrades have a pointy ribbon with a plus symbol on it, which shows that these are going to be added on top of attractions. Now, of course, we're playing with 2 themed decks here, Pirate and Robot, so you may notice that they all have little letters in the bottom right corner that show you which deck they're from. And in this case, this player in his hand has a pirate theme. He could build that for paying 12 coins. He could add a pirate theme to his existing Floorless Roller Coaster. Now, of course, he has to be careful not to put an upgrade that he already has on his attraction. In this case, he has a roller coaster attraction, and he doesn't have a pirate theme on it yet, so he's safe. But does he really want to spend 12 coins for this? Well, maybe. Because it says after you build this upgrade, you may gain 5 coins. So if he were to build this upgrade for his 1 action, right now on top of this roller coaster, he would have to pay 12 coin, but then he would get 5 back. So really this is only going to cost him 7 coin. Well, it's a good idea. Now why would he want to build it? Well, let's talk about it. First of all, he would have an extra icon. What are icons? Icons are these little things on the ribbon. They're these symbols on the ribbon. And if he were to build this pirate theme onto his roller coaster, he would now have 2 icons. Remember we talked about one way to earn victory points at the end of the game is to have large attractions? This is what I mean by large. It means more icons. Over here on this reference sheet, you can see that if you have an attraction with 2 icons, that's worth 8 victory points at the end of the game. So simply by having a roller coaster with a pirate theme on it is now worth 8 victory points at the end of the game. So that's a good thing for the player. The player wants to put as many upgrades onto attraction as possible. But the player can't duplicate upgrades. He can't have 2 pirate themes on the same attraction. So he's going to have to find another upgrade to add next time if he wants to keep adding icons. And of course, you could go all the way up to as many icons as you want, but 25 is the maximum number of icons that are going to earn you points. You earn 310 points if you have 25 icons in your attraction. You can have 1,000,000 icons if you want, but 25 is the maximum that are going to earn you any victory points. But you'll find that the average is usually somewhere around 4 to 7 icons on an attraction. It's very rare for people to get more than that many icons on an attraction, just because it's going to be expensive. Imagine if you spent 12 coin 25 times. That's a lot of money. Okay, so that's one possibility. Now, why else would the starting player want to pay the 12 coin for this, besides the fact that he gets 5 coin back and it would help him boost his victory points at the end of the game? Well, it has this star on the top right. Now, we mentioned stars earlier, but we didn't explain them, so now's a good time. The 1 star indicates that by adding this upgrade, there's going to be 1 guest wanting to come to the park. Or maybe 1,000,000 guests, maybe 100 guests. The 1 just stands for a certain amount of guests who want to come to the park. Now, 2 guests already want to come to the park for the Floorless Roller Coaster, and 1 guest already wants to come to the park just because there's a nice gate there. So if he were to build this upgrade, his park would now attract 1, 2, 3, 4 guests. 4 guests would want to come to his theme park. But he has to be careful because notice that his park has a guest capacity of 15 stars. So, even though 4 guests want to come, only 15 guests can actually get in. So he's safe for now if he were to build this pirate theme upgrade. But in the future, if he has more than 15 stars, he's not going to get the full benefit of those stars because he can attract as many people as he wants, but he can only let in 15. There's a limit. And that's partly because of fire regulations or maybe size of the park. You can understand Disneyland can't let everybody in who wants to cut in on a certain day. They can only sell a certain number of tickets. So it's kind of like that. You want more stars to attract more people to your park, but you don't want to put so many stars that you're exceeding your guest capacity, or else you're just building stars without getting any additional benefit. We'll talk about the nuances of that in a minute. But let's see what else this guest could build instead of a pirate theme in his hand. Well, he has a lockers and coat check here. Now that's an upgrade. Notice that instead of it being an upgrade theme, it says upgrade guest services. You'll notice that there's different varieties of upgrades, and either one is theme, one is guest services. Now this costs a lot less. Look at that. It's only 4 coin. He doesn't get anything special by building it he doesn't get any extra coin or anything. But it doesn't have any stars. So he's sacrificing a star. This doesn't attract any more guests. But it improves the value of his attraction. He'd get an extra icon. And it would cost a lot less. So this is an attractive build. Although he has plenty of money, so why would he spend money on a small upgrade when he could spend it on a big upgrade and get a bigger advantage? What else can he build? Well, he could build a flagpole. Now, a flagpole costs a little bit more than the lockers and coat checkers. Cost 8, so that's twice as much as the lockers. It also doesn't have any stars, so that wouldn't really attract any more guests to his park. But it does give him an icon, right? It's an upgrade. However, there's something interesting here. It says, when an upgrade on this attraction would be demolished, demolish this upgrade instead. This means that this is kind of a protective upgrade. Once you built this attraction, other players can't steal upgrades from your attraction without stealing this one first. It's kind of a protective thing. But just like a flagpole goes on the very top of something, this upgrade has to be the last upgrade you build in your attraction. It's going to be on the top of your attraction. Because once you've built it, upgrades cannot be added to this attraction. So that's a little bit of a penalty for building this flagpole. If you pay the 8 coin and build this flagpole, your attraction is now safe from getting hurt by other players, at least for a little bit. But you can't put any more upgrades on it. So if the starting player built a flagpole right now, their attraction would only have 2 icons. It would only be worth 8 victory points at the end of the game, and it would only be worth 2 stars. It would only be attracting 2 guests to the park. What else could this player build? Ooh, this player could pay 7 coin, and that's not bad because he'd get a star and an icon. Here's an upgrade feature. There we go. So this is something that might be good. Build a comfortable seating on his floorless roller coaster. He'd have an attraction that has 2 icons, can still be having more icons in the future, and it'd be attracting 3 guests. And then finally, superior quality upgrade. So you could add a quality upgrade, adds another icon, it's worth a star, but look at that price point. It's 15 coin. Why does it cost so much? Well, it's because you can add more than one quality upgrade on your attraction. Remember I said you can't duplicate upgrades, so you can't have more than one comfortable seating on a floorless roller coaster? Well, you can have more than one quality upgrade on a roller coaster or any other attraction. So you're paying more for the benefit of being able to build a lot of these in the future. You can just keep building more quality upgrades. You could have a quality floorless roller coaster. That's a lot of icons you could have. But that's a lot of money for a very small amount of stars. And as you're going to see, the main strategy in the early game, meaning one of the first 2 or 3 rounds of the game, is you need to start generating money. And how do you generate money? You'll find out soon, but it all depends upon how many guests you can get into your park. And guests you're getting in your park depend on your guest capacity, but the guest capacity doesn't matter if you don't have any attractions. So stars is where the money is at. So starting player doesn't want to build that, it's too expensive. Starting player doesn't want to build that, it doesn't give him any stars. Starting player doesn't want to build that right now, it doesn't give him any stars. So it's down to these 2 possibilities from his hand. Starting player could pay 7 for a star and an icon, or he could pay, right, remember this is 12, but then you get 5 coins back, so it'd be essentially the same price. 7 for a star and an icon. So these are equivalent cards right now. Equivalent cards. They give the same benefit for the same cost. Okay, so player could choose to pay a certain amount of coins right now and build one of these for his Park 1 action. But remember, he doesn't have to build something from his hand. He could build something from the marketplace. So let's look at the options in the marketplace. These are the best options as a hand right now. Let's look at the options in the marketplace. Now, the marketplace is kind of like an open hand that all players can look at and build from. Now, there's 6 cards always visible at a time, and player 1 has some options. The starting player could build this for 7 coin. It says after you build this upgrade, you may draw a park card or an event card. Those would be placed in your hand. They don't actually get built for free in your park right away. And so that's kind of powerful. You get to take an action after you build this card, but look at it. It's no stars. Remember, we're avoiding cards that don't have any stars right now because it's not going to earn you any money. And then you're just spending money without earning any money. Later in the game, you're going to want to have a lot of icons because you're getting closer to the end of the game. But if you don't have money now, you're not going to be able to build these in the future. So starting player is going to ignore any ones that cost money but don't give you stars. So we're going to focus our interest on just these 3 cards here in the middle. Ignore the vending machine, information kiosks, and the restrooms, because those don't cost much, but they don't give you any stars. We want stars to attract guests so that guests can come and pay money during the guest step. We'll walk through that later. Alright, so we're looking here. What do we see? Ooh, this is an attraction. See, because of the forked ribbon, and here's an attraction. So we could just add an extra attraction. Don't worry about upgrading our existing attraction. Let's just build some more attractions, right? Starting player could pay 17 and get 3 stars and 2 icons. That's nice because it has a built-in upgrade. Guest services, air conditioning, just like this one here. Or the player could pay 11 coin, get 2 stars, so less money than this one, but you get more star. And it still would be 2 icons because it has a built-in upgrade, a feature splashdown. So that's possible. And then this one is an upgrade as well, but it does give you a star, so it's worth considering. Is a 5 coin for a star and a icon. That's not bad. But it says you can't build it on rides. And that makes sense, right? You can't build air conditioning on a roller coaster. But the problem is our attraction is a thrill ride. So we can't build this at all because we don't have anything that's not a ride in our park. So the starting player has to build one of these from the market or one of these from his hand. But remember, the player isn't stuck with these choices either. The player could build something from his hand, do the loose change, build something from the market, or draw some cards. Now, the benefit of drawing cards now is that you can play them later. So, the starting player could choose to draw these top 2 event cards, look at them, and choose to keep 1 or none. That means that later, next round, he'll have more cards in his hand to play. Remember, each player always draws 1 event card at the beginning of each round? Well, he still will get to do that, but if he's drawn some now, in the middle of this round, then in round 2, he'll have more cards to play next time. So we can look at these. Now remember, this is the same card that we played earlier. See, there's it in the discard. There's going to be more than 1 in each deck. So he might want to take this because then next time he can draw another card and build in his park immediately for free next round. But this one says that you may reveal the top card of the park deck, and you may put it in your hand or discard another, keep going until you find. So basically this is a way to search the deck for cards you want. We'll talk about that later. And then this is a way that you can close an opponent's attraction. This sounds good. So the starting player would probably want to pick that if he was doing this action. But he could discard both of them over here and not do anything. But he's gonna wait. And of course, we're pretending like he's not doing any of these actions. But that's one action he could do. He could also draw 2 blueprints and choose to keep 1 or none. So see a pattern here? He could draw 2 of those, choose to keep 1 or none. Draw 2 blueprints, choose to keep 1 or none, or draw a park card, choose to keep 1 or none. Remember, you have a hand limit. We'll talk about that later. And if you don't choose any of the cards, you basically wasted an action. So let's see here. Remember, we got rid of the difficult and insane blueprints, so we only have easy ones left and medium ones left. This one says that at the end of the game, I'm going to earn 25 victory points, 24, if I can have a theater or a sideshow with all these types of upgrades. It would need an information kiosk, an air conditioning, a vending machine, and a robot theme icon. The problem is that I don't have any theaters or sideshows yet. I only have a Florida's roller coaster. And the game is still young. We haven't even finished the first round, but this is kind of a medium difficulty. Over here it says any attraction, which would include a Florida's roller coaster, by the way, with any guest services upgrade, any guest services upgrade, and any guest services upgrade. 3 guest services upgrade. Now, notice, that isn't the same as duplicating guest services upgrades because a restroom is a guest services upgrade, and air conditioning is a guest services upgrade, and a vending machine is guest services upgrade, and information kiosk is guest services. So as long as you just build 3 of those types of upgrades on any attraction, you're going to get 12 points at the end of the game, 50 points. But if you don't, remember what I said about there's a penalty for not completing blueprints, you lose 10 points. Same here, lose 10 points. So I think what our player is going to do is, if they were looking at these cards, they'd probably choose this one right here, because the game is young, and here requires 3 guest services upgrade, here requires 3 guest services upgrade, plus a robot and a special attraction, but hey, that's medium difficulty. So if the player were doing this, they'd probably choose this card. But then again, remember, we're just looking at possibilities. So the starting player is probably not going to draw a blueprint this early, although they might, because then they could start thinking about it. They might actually draw the top 2 of these and pick one or none to keep in their hand. They can't build it for free, but they can put it in their hand. Well, there's another air conditioning, there's another flagpole. The player would probably keep the air conditioning because he might need it later because it's worth a star and it's cheap to build. Probably get rid of the flagpole because he already has one in his hand. But of course, that's just another option. The last thing that the player could do, instead of building from his hand, building from the market, or drawing 2 cards and then keeping one from each of those decks, or doing the loose change action, is the player could simply decide to discard a card from his hand. Let's say he's looking at some cards in his hand. Ooh, boy, he doesn't like what he's seeing. He's never going to use the flagpole, maybe, because he's just going to keep building till the very end of the game. He doesn't want to lock himself into a particular certain types of upgrades. So he maybe could discard this. If he discards this card by putting it face up next to the park card, he can then draw 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then he can look, just like he did back when he had the chance to draw 2 and keep 1, he can look at 5 cards, but he can still only keep 1. Now, of course, the benefit of this is that you're giving up one of the cards you already had, and you're getting one in replacement. But you get to look at a lot of different cards as a result, instead of just the top 2. So it costs a little bit, but the reward is greater. Here it says if you build this splashdown element on a thrill ride, you get 3 stars for that. Ooh, it's 15. Here is a staff member. Now, we haven't really talked about staff members yet, but they are powerful. They often have special powers, and they give you victory points, as you can see right here. But they're usually not valuable for earning money right away, because they don't have any stars. All right, so we've looked at some possibilities, and the player has more options than even that. The player, for his 1 step, could also choose to demolish something in his park. For example, the player could choose to discard to demolish this attraction to make room for more attractions. That's because your park not only has a limit to how many guests are in the park, but a limit to how many attractions are in the park. Only 5 attractions can be in the park. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if he was running out of room and he wanted to put in a better attraction, he'd have to first use one of his actions to demolish this roller coaster. But it's too early in the game. He needs all the attractions he can get. So the starting player is definitely not going to do that. So this has been a bit of a long installment, but let's review all the possibilities that this player has this particular action step. He can choose to demolish an attraction or a card from demolish a card in his theme park. He's not going to do that because he needs everything he's got. He could choose to do loose change and get a coin because he has 1 attraction. He's not going to do that. He has plenty of money. He could choose to draw 2 cards from the event deck, choose 1 to keep or none to keep. He could draw 2 cards from the blueprint deck, choose 1 to keep, choose none to keep. He could draw 2 cards from the park deck, choose 1 to keep or none to keep. But he's not going to do any of that right now because he's just focusing on this first event. And he's going to have 2 more events in a minute. And he could choose to discard a card from a hand that he doesn't like. He could choose to discard this flagpole. And then he could draw 5 cards from here and choose 1 to keep and discard the other 4. But he's not going to do that either yet. The other thing he could do is he could pay money to build something from his hand or pay money to build something from the market. What is starting player 1 going to do? Well, there's a lot of options, and I know you may be feeling a bit overwhelmed, but don't worry. I'm going to show you what the best option is. Remember I showed you that the best 2 options from our hand were to spend 7 coin and get an upgrade and an icon to our existing attraction. The thing is that these cards are in our hand. We can build them at any time. They're safe. Nobody else can steal from our hand. But these things in the market can be built by other players. They are not safe, because anybody could build from here. And we need not only more attractions, but we need more attractions with more icons, and we need more stars. So this thing's looking really good, this monorail. It's worth 3 stars. It has 2 icons, and it's worth 17 coin, which is a lot, but we have money, right? We have 20 coin. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to build this thing right here. So we're going to go ahead and, well, I don't know, because we could also choose, you know what, I think what the player 1 is going to do is do blueprints. Because remember, if you have a goal with your blueprints, you have a goal, you know what you're doing, then you can do other things. So the player's first action of the entire game, first action of the first round is draw 2 of these cards. And he sees that he's going to need a lot of guest services upgrades. So he's going to go ahead and choose the easy blueprint right here. And he's going to put that face down next to his park right up here so he can look at it anytime he wants. He has to discard the other blueprint. Remember, you can only keep 1 or none. You can't keep both. And now he has a goal. Now he's going to try to have an attraction, which he already has, but he's going to need 3 guest services upgrades on it. Alright, so that's his action. Now the starting player could have built something from the market. If he had chosen to build from the market, he probably would have built the monorail. And if he had chosen to build from his hand, he probably wouldn't have done the pirate theme. But he didn't. He didn't build from his hand. He didn't build from the market. He didn't draw from any of the other decks. He didn't do loose change, and he didn't discard anything. He decided he was just going to draw a blueprint, so now he has a plan. He has a goal in mind. He needs to build some guest services upgrades. And if he can do that, he's not only going to be getting the value of those guest services upgrade, but he's also going to be getting victory points at the end of the game. But now, he was a starting player. Now we got to go clockwise around and let everybody else take an action. Of course, they're not going to take as long to decide because they know how this game works. So over here, this player right here, he has his 5 starting park cards, and he's going to have to decide the same thing. What is he going to do with his action? Is he going to build something from his hand? Now, he doesn't have any attractions in the park yet, so he needs to build an attraction desperately. But he could build a staff member before he has an attraction. This one costs 4 coin, but it doesn't earn him any money. It just lets him reopen parks during the event step. We'll worry about that later. Obviously, upgrades are useless at this point because he doesn't have anything to upgrade. And so this poor person doesn't have anything in his hand to build. No attractions, which are needed before he can build an upgrade. So he can do this rule, which only happens at the start of the game. First park step of the first round of the first game. If you don't have any attractions in your hand, you may choose to discard all 5 of your cards and draw another 5 for free. That's because it's really hard to get started in the game if you don't have an attraction. Now, of course, he could choose to keep these cards in his hand and just build something from the marketplace, but he wants a better hand. He thinks like his cards aren't that good. And we'll talk about why we feel that way, but really, it's true. His cards aren't that great right now. So he's going to go ahead and just draw 5 new cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then he's going to take a look at his new cards. And if he has an attraction in those 5 cards, then he's good to go. He has a robot theme, a snack setter, a splashdown ornament, a flagpole. And what's this thing hiding in the very back? Air conditioning. Well, he feels better because the robot theme is not bad and the snack setter is not bad. So even though he doesn't have an attraction in his hand, he's not gonna discard 5 and draw another 5 cards. He could keep doing that until he has an attraction in his hand. Once he has an attraction in his hand to build, he cannot do this thing for the rest of the game. It's just something that players can do at the beginning, so that way they have a even start with other players. But he's happy with his hand, but he's not going to build anything because he can't. He doesn't have any attractions. He could build a snack setter. You could hire her, but she isn't worth any stars, so she won't make him any money right away. So he could then have the same decision. Is he going to draw 2 cards from one of these decks and keep one or keep none? Is he going to build something from the marketplace? Is he going to do loose change? Well, loose change doesn't do anything for him because he doesn't have any attractions to get loose change from. And it would be completely useless and completely worthless to discard something because he doesn't have anything to discard. So he has to build from the marketplace or draw from one of these decks. He's going to build an attraction from the marketplace, and ooh, the starting player should have built that monorail when he had a chance, because now this player is building the monorail for 17 coin. So first time his attraction is built, he flips over that card, he pays 15, 16, 17, and he's just built his first attraction. That means that now we've gone all the way around the table, everybody's had a chance to take their park event, and the starting player moves it to Park Step 2.